Hello and welcome to the Video Lab podcast. My name is Sam and I'm here with my good friend AJ.
Hey there.
Together we review movies, TV shows, and streaming content.
Today on the podcast, we have our dear friend Colin.
Hello.
Perfect.
Wow, lots of nobody vibe in that intro.
I'm nobody.
Please put that in.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
What is it you want, Barry? You want the moon?
I want the truth!
I see dead people.
You shall not pass!
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
This is Sparta! I am your father.
Let us fight to free the world, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us all unite!
A docile family man slowly reveals his true character after his house gets burglared by two petty thieves, which, coincidentally, leads him into a bloody war with a Russian crime boss. This is going to be a very interesting episode because I watched a movie called Nobody, and you guys watched a movie called Mr. Nobody.
No, we didn't actually do that, but Colin's trolling hard.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Dude, I was like, I swear to God, AJ said the movie Nobody, not Mr. Nobody.
You believed me? The classic non-linear science fiction film starring Jared Leto?
I was like, this is going to be a hard podcast for me to chime in on. Okay, let me see. I have to get good at my segues. As Hutch would go about his day daydreaming of different violent things to do, did you guys find yourself daydreaming of how amazing this movie is?
What's your premise there? Like about daydreaming?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if he was daydreaming.
No, because you know what's funny is I actually have a thought that kind of like plays on that possibility. Okay, so I feel like this movie could be a
Revolutionary.
It feels like a revenge fantasy of a suburban dad escalating from a traumatic experience. You know, he kind of snaps when his daughter asks about the bracelet, and he goes after the guys. And I feel like the rest of this movie could be viewed as just like a revenge daydream of him like just getting into the most outlandish fucking scenarios because he's getting out all this rage from letting his family down.
You can't find what?
My kitty cat bracelet.
Where was it?
In here. They couldn't have stolen that, would they?
Even like the premise of the title, Nobody, like the tagline, like, who are you? I'm nobody. It screams like the thoughts of a middle-aged man playing out these sequences.
Which is, have you seen Death Wish?
No.
AJ? Okay, so I thought this movie was going to be Death Wish, which is like, I believe, a 70s sort of revenge, like crime thriller where a guy's family gets robbed and horribly, I think, killed. Some people get killed. And then he sort of becomes this vigilante where he goes around shooting everybody.
Yeah.
And that's like, there's 4 movies of those.
Oh my God.
And I thought this is what this was going to be, but it wasn't. Also, Bruce Willis was recently in a remake of Death Wish, which is as bad as you can imagine.
Well, yeah, that was the movie that got trashed, right? Like it was supposedly pretty shit. Yeah.
It's bad. It's like a bad message. It's horribly like, it's not even violent. It's just gross.
Oh, well, that's no good. You can't have gross violence. It just got to be normal violence.
So, who are you? I'm just a man who's looking for someone.
Yeah, well, you probably shouldn't flash cheese like that around here, bro.
There are 3 types of people who, as you say, flash cheese. People who don't know any better, people who are seeking to intimidate, and people like me who wish with every fiber of their being that someone would try to take it from them.
I think we should also say right off the bat that this is like the most sister film possible to the John Wick series.
Yeah, that's how I was brought on to the podcast. I think AJ thought, and correctly, that I was a fan of the John Wick films. And is it the director? Is it the same director as the John Wick film?
It's the writer. The guy who wrote all 3 John Wick films wrote this movie.
I can tell you that in the first 4 minutes of this movie, I was very concerned because the cat comes out of his jacket. So we clearly are like at the end of the film, just like in John Wick.
Yep.
How it starts. And there is an animal, just like John Wick.
It was going to be a cat this time.
And I was very concerned that it was going to be a carbon copy. And in a lot of ways it is.
The similarities are glaring. Like, first of all, the secret past life of a guy as an assassin being called involuntarily out of retirement. You got gold bars in the basement for some reason to call upon for cash. And then the biggest plot point, burning a Russian safe house full of cash to piss off a Russian mob boss.
Does this writer like have something against Russian people? Because this and John Wick are the 2 most like anti-Russian movies since the Cold War. All criminals are Russian. All Russians are criminals.
Right. I think it's a fair message.
It's a really easy trope for like action movies to fall into. It's always like Russia's the bad guy.
Yeah, I mean that's how like Die Hard is, and like it's just they're easy because their accents sound so menacing. And
let me provide counterpoints to you boys, because while the story mimics a lot of the tone or a lot of the plot points of John Wick movies, I think the things that set this apart that made me really like it were, number one, Bob Odenkirk, who plays Hutch, I thought was really believable and did like a natural, old, but yet strong assassin dude. The fact that he can like, kick ass, but at the same time, he's not like this invincible dude where he takes the one punch or the kick from the guy in the bus and just goes through the window and is like super beat up. I thought there was good stunts where it didn't feel, it was over the top, of course, but there was still some realism to it to an extent.
Yeah, it gets, I mean, it's brutal with like a realist gravity to it. I mean, it escalates further and further where it gets less realistic because you're just getting like, 60 people shooting at each other. But in the beginning, especially, like he's getting the shit kicked out of him and you could see him feeling it, which is, I think they did a really good job of that, of keeping it grounded and feeling very real. And the action sequences too. I don't know what it is, but everything looked very real. And I was flinching when people were getting stabbed in the bus.
Yeah, the action's great. Wouldn't you agree, Colin? Because I think they do a good job of holding on. They don't over edit it where it's super, super cutty. They play stuff out so you can tell what's going on. And although it may not be super, super fast, I thought for Bob Odenkirk doing some of it too, it was really well paced.
Right. I agree. I think that the sort of the star of the show is the bus sequence. I think that's probably what got this movie made, other than I think Bob Odenkirk is like involved. I think he's a producer. I think he wanted to do something like action-y, but that bus sequence is so good. I don't really know how they filmed it because it's such a tight space. It's clearly a real bus that they're working with, and it's tight. There's no guns. Well, there is a gun, but there are no gunshots in the sequence. And it's just great. I love it.
What are you still doing here, old man?
I'm gonna fuck you up.
I got it.
I think for at least half or maybe 3/4 of the movie till the very end, we don't even see Hutch's character shoot a gun. He's just using the environment around him to like kick ass and destroy these people. And it made me think of Jackie Chan's movies where he uses all the environment to like, succumb his opponents to bow down to him and defeat them. He almost like MacGyvered the different environments around him to his advantage.
Well, and that's totally what those movies are about, is, not being the cheap guy with the gun, being so skilled that you don't even need that shit. You can take down a bus full of goony guys just with your like bare hands.
Quite literally too, wrapping the seatbelt around his fist and just destroying them.
And what a power play to like like smash this dude's trachea and then give him an emergency tracheectomy.
that was incredible.
That was such a power play.
Well, that's the other thing too. I think this film does an awesome job of, in some ways, making it different than John Wick, where they interject more humor into it. Not like, slapstick humor, but like subtle and quick-witted humor to make it kind of witty.
Yeah, it feels very Bob Odenkirky, like a little splash of his own humor style.
So we haven't talked about the plot. Is that because there really isn't one?
Well, yeah, it's. I mean, it's really just like I said earlier, just the kind of John Wick copying there. Okay, so let me say, I think the biggest difference between this and John Wick, and what makes it, not a dud, and it actually makes it pretty interesting, is that instead of him being like a reluctant, like, I'm gonna kick all your asses, him being drawn out of his like suburban dad lifestyle is actually thrilling, and he's begging for people to bring him out of his shell.
Yes,
whether it
be
awesome, whether it be in the bus or when he like left the club, he's like crossing his fingers and like hoping, just praying that like that bus lady opens the door, or that they come out of the club and start shooting him, because he's just like hungry for it. And that's a big difference between this and John Wick.
Yeah, I feel like he is way crazier than John Wick.
Yeah.
Like this character Hutch is a total psychopath.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like begging for violence because he's got this like inner demon in him.
Yeah, that he needs to exercise because he feels like he let his family down. I thought that was so interesting, that a good redirect from, that couple that robbed them, and it turns out that they robbed him to, pay for their sick babies like surgeries or whatever. And so he feels like shit, but he needs that energy exercised. And that's when those fucking goons show up at the bus, and he's just like, fuck yeah.
That's another thing I was concerned about, was you can tell when his family is originally getting robbed, the break-in, that they are Hispanics underneath those masks. And I was like, oh no, it's going to be a terrible race thing. and then he goes and takes vengeance, and I'm thinking, oh no, this is not going well. But then the baby cries. He goes in there and he realizes, oh no, these people are desperate. And then that's not really who the antagonists of the film are. The antagonists are these Russian gangsters, because one guy has the Obshak, as it's described in the film.
Yeah.
The 401k for the Russian mob.
Yeah. And then they just kind of collide randomly because Hutch just wants to go on this cathartic punching spree of beating the shit out of these guys. He just accidentally trips into the Russian mob, basically.
Short story long, he's as bad as they come. A connected, funded sociopath with resources to make things complicated. If he can't take care of a loose end like you, he'd have to give up his share of the Obshak.
The Obshak?
Think of it like the 401k of the Russian mob. That's hundreds of millions of dollars in cash, perpetually on the move.
The movie went by so fast to me. I was like, oh my God, it's only an hour 30. It didn't feel...
And honestly, that works really well for it. They use the time really well, and they don't... Like, a 2-hour movie of this probably is not necessary. Like, they did well with that.
I thought that what critics were looking for, because even though it did good on Rotten Tomatoes, I bet what they wanted more from this would maybe be like another 5 to 10 minutes of like some deeper backstory to Hutch or something. But I'm glad they didn't do that. I'm glad they just kind of, he's this guy who used to be an assassin. He's really good, and he just has this drive to like be awesome and kick the shit out of people versus like some deep emotional Inception type backstory where he's like traumatized or something.
Yeah, we get like that folder, like his file gets thrown on the floor by the Russian guy, and that's like, oh, he's bad. And then he tells that story where he ran into a guy who got out. He was going to kill a guy who just wanted to get out of the game, and that like made him want to get out of the game. And that's basically it. And his dad is Doc Brown, who was in the FBI.
Yep.
Played by
It's Doc Brown. It's Christopher Lloyd.
Oh, I'm sorry. You were using his Back to the Future name.
It didn't quite make it.
I missed that. Yeah. No, that was, I thought that was amazing because I was really hoping we would see Christopher Lloyd wield a half barrel shotgun. And we did.
Did you guys buy Harry Mansell?
Oh, the brother played by RZA?
Yeah.
Wu-Tang Clan's RZA.
The RZA.
As Hutch is talking to him over this like top secret radio, I don't know. I almost wanted someone like more famous or something like Christopher Lloyd to show up at the end because I didn't even recognize that dude.
But they both showed up.
Yeah, Christopher Lloyd shows up with the shotgun. The Riddler shows up with his sniper rifle, doesn't he?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I almost imagine like if they had the budget for it, I was expecting like a Will Smith level character to enter.
Oh, wow.
For some reason.
So you can hear him on the radio for most of the film, and I thought it was Michael K. Williams from The Wire.
Oh, funny.
Oh, really?
Movie. But then it was the RZA, and I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
Oh, wait, is that how you say his name?
So he goes by a bunch of names. I feel like he's from Wu-Tang. They change their names all the time.
Right.
He's like actually into acting. He's done a couple things. He was on Californication for a while.
Oh, okay.
He did that show, the movie, The Man with the Iron Fists, which was not, but he was in that. So like, I think he's interested in like kung fu and action movies, which is probably why he joined on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was much more interested in Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, same.
Every second he was on screen, I was like, okay, what's he going to do?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, he was just awesome being this wacky, kooky old guy with a shotgun going around hammering people.
I tried the retirement thing. I enjoyed it. Sleeping legs, breakfast, walk around the quad, lunch, nap, sleep. But God damn it, Hutchie, if I didn't miss this shit.
I was a little confused at their role at the end. Like, they obviously weren't planning with Hutch at that warehouse, but they were somehow perfectly ingrained into the plan that they were using his booby traps, or they set their own. Like, how did that work? Because he was surprised to see them there.
Movie magic.
Yeah, I mean,
talking about Hutch, man, the Mansell family, they're on such a wavelength. They've been assassinated for years. They know where Hutch puts the booby traps.
Yeah, they're like, yes, that's where he's got it. I'm going to use it right now. Yeah, it wasn't clear to me. It's not a big deal, but I was confused at how they just showed up there.
I loved the take on the inner rage of this whole film as the catalyst, basically being the driver in the suburban area as the whole routine of getting in this daily routine and stuff that just kind of builds up and you need to like just explode and go crazy sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and it's what's actually interesting about that too is in real life, I read this in a New York Times profile. Bob Odenkirk actually had 2 burglaries at his actual home. Like that really affected his family. And like the first one in particular was really traumatic. And he doesn't go into details, but he said that filming this was really cathartic for him as like a way to get out rage. Imagine some of the circumstances like where his son was pissed off at him. I almost wonder if something happened like that. Actually, and he mentions in that interview, because you know how the cop and all these like macho guys are going around after the incident saying, after the break-in at Hutch's house, like, yeah, I would have fucked those guys up. Apparently, the cop in real life that responded to his house said something like that to him.
I feel like a lot of people would say that, not being in the situation, like, oh yeah, I would destroy those guys. But in most cases, I think you can look this up statistically, people who use a gun or something to defend themselves, if they're having a burglary, ultimately end up getting it used against them or end up hurt themselves.
All I'm going to say is we have a constitution. There's a Second Amendment. Okay. Right to bear arms. All right. Coming at me.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I definitely have a sword by my nightstand.
That's not in the Constitution. That's not arms.
Yeah, that's illegal, dude. You can't have that shit.
No.
I mean, no, I don't have a sword.
What I will say is, to me, the most unrealistic part was actually that component of the film where his son and his family kind of seemed like, ugh, what a loser. You didn't beat that guy up when you had a gun. Like, I feel like if you and your family survived with almost nothing being taken from you, everybody would just be so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
I don't feel like everybody would hate you.
Yeah.
That was the weirdest part, was everybody seemed to like hate him for that, when it was like, I mean, they had a gun pointed at your son. I mean, who knows, if you hit him in the back of the head, they could easily pull that trigger. Like, I thought that was the smart move. But then we learned later that the reason he didn't do it is because he's super hutch and he could see that there were no bullets in the gun.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I think they wanted the son to get super angry at him too, just almost to convey that his son has maybe inherited a little bit of his inner rage demon, perhaps.
Like, I think the beginning of the film up until the bus fight, like through the bus fight, is my favorite sort of components of it. I love the opening with the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday sort of like title cards, and sort of almost like has a horror sound to when the days switch, as if like you're in Hutch's brain and like this is his nightmare of like living this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday life.
Yep.
I would say through the bus fight is my favorite parts of it. And that's what really distinguishes itself from John Wick to me, is John Wick's sort of opening action fight sequence is that fight in the house with the guns, which is so choreographed and beautiful, but so just not real, which is great. I love that about John Wick. But this movie is like, okay, what if a guy who's been out of the game for a while was on a bus and just started trying to beat the shit out of some Russians?
Everybody get to the basement.
What?
Right now. Let's go. Move.
What is
Move.
Dad, what
Right
what's
now.
happening? Hutch,
Move.
you're scaring me.
Go.
What is going on?
Get the door, son.
It's a game.
Yes, is this a game, Hutch?
I like games.
Hutch, what is happening?
It's interesting. I think if you think of this movie as inside of his head and as a revenge fantasy, he's feeling like he let his family down, and he might even be just, imagine. I don't think, again, this is what the movie is actually going for, but it's easier to imagine that this person is feeling this rage like he let his family down because he had the opportunity. But then also on the situation itself, what you were saying earlier, Sam, I think it was actually like braver and took more courage not to escalate the situation with the break-in. And there's this masculine impulse of, stand your ground or defending your castle, that all these people around him are saying, like, oh, you should have fucking kicked his ass. I think it takes a lot more work and energy and again, courage to be pacifist to working to not getting anyone harmed. And I thought that was really good that he did that, despite what anyone might think of, like, your revenge fantasy of like, oh, if anyone comes in here, I'll beat the crap out of anyone that threatens my family. I think it's much more realistic on what people actually do and what is probably smarter, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'd like to say. Unless someone was like physically trying to harm my family, I think the better option is always just be like, all right, take the wallet, take the car, take whatever you want, because you can always replace those things.
It's hard because I feel like I personally would be in the camp of like, I'm going to beat the shit out of this guy. But I don't think that's a good... I think it's like a very normal thing for especially guys to be like, oh, I'll fucking defend the place.
I'm going to show my guns and my muscles.
Yeah, right.
I agree with you, AJ, but do you think the movie agrees with you? Because I don't think it does.
No, it does not. No, I think, well, wait. Actually,
it tries to initially.
I think it's much more pacifist in its initial language, and what comes after that is the machinations and trauma of that experience itself. What he did was...
look at his consequences, though. It's like, because he gives in to his inner rage to go get the stupid little kitty bracelet, he almost kills these two parents of this sick baby, and afterwards he needs to like let off steam, so he like drags the Russians into it, and it almost leads to the ending of his own family because of his actions.
Yeah, but by the end he has like that nice house. They're going to that nice house.
That's true.
Yeah, that was a 180 at the end where suddenly they're like back in the life, and like they got a nicer house, and like, all right, got to prepare for he's back in the life again. I guess it's like the opposite of John Wick.
How do you think it should have ended then?
I'm not sure. Well, he kind of made it sound like, okay, this is the last thing I'm doing as a, an auditor, quote unquote. And it seems that he has been much like John Wick, he has opened up the Pandora's box and he must now like prepare for more violence in the future, it seems. I don't know how I would rather have it end, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad ending. I think it's slightly inconsistent from the rest of what this film was wanting to do, it looked like.
So my girlfriend is an accountant and an auditor, and I asked her if she had ever killed anyone. She would not watch it with me, and she had no idea what I was asking, but she says no. So I'm thinking that, auditor. I don't think he's the kind of auditor that we think of. I think he's something else. I don't think he's got a CPA.
Well, he explained what he did in the movie, right?
Not really. He kind of said, I think this was his description of his job. I'm the guy you don't want to see. Show up at your door.
I'm nobody. Yeah, I suppose he was pretty vague on the details of this, but
which is totally fine for me, because what I love about John Wick is it's like, I don't know what John was doing. He was doing some stuff. It was bad, but John's a good guy.
Yeah, it's almost better when you don't, over explain it or try to like really give you a full detail. Like, this is what John Wick was doing, like A through Z.
We know in 10 years you're going to get like John Wick, the prequel.
Yeah, right. Totally. I know the mystery here and the mysterious past definitely is enticing as a story element.
Who the fuck are you?
Me, I'm nobody.
Can I say two things that took me out of it a little bit for this movie? Would be, in the beginning, maybe it's just the suburban lifestyle and the passing of time over the years that marriage gets harder or something, that him and his wife end up sleeping with the pillow divide between them. I didn't really get that.
That was weird. I didn't like that. I mean, I liked it as like a show don't tell sort of thing, but I mean, it's comfortable. I actually like pillows sometimes.
I don't know. I just didn't get why they had such a divide between them. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think it's like, like statistically, most marriages don't work out. And I think it's kind of playing on the vanilla suburban household where, there's a troubled marriage. And I guess just thought of it because he's suppressing all this rage and this. His spark has almost gone out over the years, maybe because he's had to suppress it. I kind of got that vibe too, which is kind of weird because it seems like only good things happen when he lets his inner monster out.
Yeah,
like things are on the up and up once he starts beating the shit out of these guys.
Yeah,
which
he's like cooking lasagna again.
He made lasagna. I was really sad when one of the dead Russians' faces landed in the lasagna. I'm like, no, he made it from scratch.
So I guess the message of this movie is give into your inner violence and just have good things happen to you.
Yeah, you're right, Colin. This movie is definitely pro-violence.
The second thing that took me out a little bit, just because it didn't make a whole lot of sense, even how crazy this was the part where Hutch goes in to talk to the Russian guy at his bar / nightclub, and he brings a claymore.
Hey.
Enjoying your meal?
Yeah. I came for the show.
You have some nerve to be here like this.
Yeah, maybe. What say you and I have a moment?
Уйдите все.
Because what was stopping anybody from shooting you once you leave the table and you're away from the main boss guy?
It did seem like a risky gambit, didn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I was kind of shocked he didn't get shot while leaving the club. Like, because as long as you don't hit the claymore, and it's not even that explosive of a device. Like,
I mean, just shoot him once he's across the road.
Right? Yeah.
Hey man, Yulian is an honorable fighter. Man, game respects game.
Yeah, I think that's the only reason why he survived is because
it's a macho type thing.
Well, yeah, it's a ballsy play that would only they respected him for it almost.
Yeah, it's like how Julian killed that guy for no reason.
Yeah, just to show that he to show the guys he was serious about holding their money. It was a pretty baller move, I will say. That was a good kill.
I thought it was cool, but I think they could have gotten away with it better had Hutch just said like one line along the lines of, and don't think I haven't set up other things around here to take you out once I leave this table or something.
No, but see, he was taunting him. He wanted to give him the opportunity to back off, but he was secretly hoping that he would come after him. That's why he set up all the booby traps at the factory, and he knew he was going to come. So it was a very half-assed peace effort. He was more just rubbing his nose in it.
Mm-hmm. It was pretty cool though to see
cool.
a claymore under the table.
Yeah, it was dope, and which also leads to one of the coolest damn kills of an action movie with the claymore and the riot shield.
That was like a Call of Duty moment.
It was a Call of Duty-esque moment. It was fucking cool.
Good.
Yeah,
that was so good. That's sort of the ending became kind of nonsense shooting, which I don't love those. I was like, I got bored.
Yeah, it was fun, but you're right. It was run of the mill, whereas earlier, like the bus scene was way more peak. But yeah,
for me,
the
it felt good to me still, just because of all the booby traps and the crazy gun work. I thought, especially when the black guy comes in with a sniper rifle, he just twists it around and like reverse shoots somebody.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, and I'm sure Colin feels the same. It's cool as hell. It's just like it's a very standardy action film at that point. It's not super special, whereas the earlier on felt very its own. And I will say that this movie has a lot of great like finishing kills that are pretty fucking cool. Like the action here is pretty darn good all around, and it really helps out this movie tremendously. I will say that the one thing that you were saying, a couple things that took you out of the moment. The one thing that took me out of the moment was when his car got pinned and like he was going in reverse, and there's like an entire Russian firing squad that is like unleashing a hail of bullets. And I'm like, there's no way he would survive that. Just none. Just like there must have been 10,000 bullets being fired at him. And I just have I could not believe that not one of them would have hit him.
AJ, he's nobody.
Yeah, I know. Like
the new Marvel superhero, nobody.
I was thinking of like the physics of the car, like with that, like the bullet penetration in the car wouldn't, like the bullets wouldn't be stopped, right? Or would it?
No, they're freaking bullets, dude. The engine would be destroyed. His legs would be shot up.
Yeah. So that was the one moment where I was like, okay, all right.
But don't say that. That's like kind of crazy to say in this movie. Like that's kind of stuff doesn't bother me.
It's the one moment in the movie I would say where it was like, because they do a pretty good job of being like realist focused, even when the action gets a little absurdist with like taking down guy after guy. Like moments like that though, it's not really a problem. It's just like the one moment where I noticed like, okay, that's a bit.
I shared your sentiment because I'm like, this has to be over 10,000 rounds put into this car and it's still going. It could have been an easy fix too had he just had a secret kind of Batmobile car that was a little armor plated.
Oh, it was his neighbor's.
But yeah, I mean the car was sweet.
Oh yeah, that was pretty funny. He stole the car from the douchebag neighbor.
I am rating this as if I had seen it in the theater because I give it some more points for that because I feel like the sound was great. Again, the music is great in this. I think that...
Oh, dude, can I tell you that we reviewed the movie Tenet recently, and the mixing in this is so great compared to that stupid movie.
Hey, whoa. We have a Tenet fight?
Oh, God damn it, Colin.
Funny. We just ragged on Tenet a lot in our...
Is it nonsense? Yes. Yes. Hey, let's have we got to do a reverse pincer move. We got to temporal pincer this podcast here.
Oh God! All right, kick this guy off the podcast. He's done.
I'm the protagonist.
The protagonist.
I'm like having bad flashbacks already.
I said I'll say what I said in that podcast. I respected Christopher Nolan for how fucking ambitious it was. It just is like it's so damn convoluted that I could not award him too much, like you did a great effort here.
I mean, guys are just moving backwards in time while they're moving forwards in time, and then Robert Pattinson, he's moving 3 ways in time. There's like 4.
I want to take a claymore to both of your faces right now. All right, out of
Physics.
10 exploding claymores, what would you guys rate this, and would you recommend to others to watch and why?
Colin?
No, I want to hear AJ first because AJ's scale is weird.
Oh, did you hear it? Have you heard? Have you heard past episodes about this? This is quite a fiasco for the podcast.
I mean, I usually don't. I'm trying to think. The episodes I listen to Sputnik with Bryce.
Yeah.
A classic. I used to go to a lot of movies with Bryce. I don't know if you know about this, Sam. He lived in my town, and we would go to a lot of movies. And it came to the point where my girlfriend calls him literally Movie Bryce because I went to movies with him. And then I listened to the Underworld episode, which is just a classic film, really. I mean, Kate Beckinsale, how many Oscars did she get for that?
Oh my gosh, she should have all of them.
That's a fun one.
No, what is the fiasco?
Oh, just because
system?
Well, okay, so I use like an American.
Keep it brief.
Grading.
We already know.
Yeah. All right, the audience knows at this point by the time they listen to this.
I have talked about this off screen.
Yes,
or recording
an American grading scale where like an 8.5 is 85% B, which is what
That's like average.
That's
or C average.
It's a B average.
Okay, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Okay, so I think Nobody is a wicked fun action film. It's not a terribly original story or concept, but it's a raucous good time that showcases Bob Odenkirk's foray into the genre. And like you said, Colin, I think it would be even better in theaters. But I think you really got to give props to sound, editing, action stunts. All of it makes this is a damn good action film, even though its story is not like anything to write home about, because it's mostly a John Wick carbon copy in some respects. So I would give it a solid B of 8.5 out of 10. And I would recommend
it. So I will give a brief explanation of my grading system.
Please. It needs to be done.
Average for me is 5.
Oh, you're that kind of great. All right, perfect. This is a great contrast to my grading scale.
That makes sense to me. Is like a 5 is average.
Yeah, that's fine.
So what I'll say is it written well? Not really. Is the dialogue great? Not really. But that's not why you're going to see Nobody. You're going to see Nobody because you want to see Bob Odenkirk. You want to see Saul Goodman beat the crap out of some guys in a bus with a pole and then give a guy a tracheotomy and put a straw in his throat. and you'll see that in this film. You will see that. That is a scene in this movie. And I liked it. I didn't love it. I would recommend that people see it. If you can see it in theaters, like on a matinee, especially right now in the pandemic, I think you could probably sneak away in the middle of the day if it's playing and go check it out, masked up, of course. I would give it a 7 out of 10, which to me is above average, definitely a recommend.
Fantastic explanation, Colin.
I think we're on the same page basically on this one, Colin. I think our grading scales speak with each other well in this regard.
I am going to give it 8.9 exploding claymores out of 10.
Oh shit! I think that's the first time you've rated something above. Well, except Underworld, but that's
obviously.
yeah.
Yeah, dude. I was watching this movie, and by the end of it, I was just like, oh god, I want a sequel, or I want more of it, because the editing felt so fresh and nicely paced. The acting was right on where it needed to be. It wasn't overacted in any regard. Even the Russian, I think it's easy for a lot of evil Russian people in these movies to be kind of over dramatic or overreactionary. But all the acting was superb. I thought the dialogue for what it was good. It was minimalistic and it was fine. And the action above else, it was just a nice blend of getting creative with the environment and some realism thrown in there. Bob Odenkirk, Hutch takes some punches and stabs, and it feels visceral and it hurts when you see him get stabbed. And I love the creativeness of just all the different booby traps, and it just left me wanting more. So that's why I'm giving it such a high rating.
I respect that. That's good.
Oh yeah, there's nothing. I wouldn't give anybody hate for liking this. This is not something I hate somebody for liking.
Yeah, no, it's a good flick. However you rate it, I don't think you could possibly call it a bad movie.
No, definitely not bad.
Otherwise, if you do, Hutch will probably come kick your ass.
Hutch will get you. He's the last guy you want to see because he's nobody.
Oh, I'm seeing something on here, guys. I'm seeing something on the Wikipedia, the world's premier source for all information. People are saying there might be a crossover with this and John Wick.
Oh my, that would be really? Sweet. Oh my.
At an 82% fresh meter for audience score, or no, it's 94% audience score fresh, and then 82%.
Wasn't AJ supposed to guess?
Oh no, that's sometimes we do that. We usually guess the budget is what we guess.
Oh, the budget. Okay.
Do you want to take a swing at the budget, Colin?
Oh, budget.
And then you could get if you want to guess box office too.
I would say it's about it's a couple of objects, maybe 20 million.
I'd say 32 million.
The box office was 16 million. Or I'm sorry, not the box office. The budget was 16 million.
Oh.
And then go ahead and guess the box office quick.
Well, the box office is going to be a little skewed because it was released during now. So it's going to be like $7 or something.
Not quite $7.
Well, how do they do that? Did they count rentals and people? How do they even do that?
I think they do count video on demand.
Into account now. Yeah, right. That's.
But the thing is it only went on video on demand as of 3 days ago. So it's not whatever you're looking at. It's not going to incorporate that. So
well, just take a guess of what it is currently. It's a rough number then.
All right, 15 million.
I would say it's made from my guess, I guess 20 million for the budget. I'll guess 20 million for the box office right now. I think it's probably made its money back.
It's made, according to Google, 38.2 million.
Ooh,
oh, good for them.
That's good.
So
that's great.
They made their money back and doubled it. So hopefully there's either more or maybe a crossover, like Colin said.
Touch 2, baby.
I don't think a crossover would be. Well, actually, okay. I would be very pleased with seeing Bob Odenkirk as a side, very brief character in John Wick, but I would not want to see that universe explored too deeply. I think these are
team up. I do not want Avengers.
Yeah, we get the John Wick cinematic universe. Colin and I've been asking this question to people on the podcast, but is there a piece of movie or television content that you would like to recommend to the audience that you've enjoyed recently?
Oh wow, this is quite the question to ask.
Mr. Nobody from 2009.
I will obviously say the hit film Tenet.
God damn it, Colin.
No, actually though, something that I think it's currently on Amazon Prime. It's one of my favorite shows ever. It's called Danger 5. It's really, really good. It's an Australian comedy show that basically spoofs. Its first season is a spoof of 60s spy shows. And its second season is a spoof of 80s action films, and it's fantastic.
Oh, funny. That sounds really fun.
It's great. There are characters that are just have a head of an eagle as a mascot head. And he's the leader of their team for some reason, and it's never ever said why. In every episode, they have to get Hitler.
Oh man, that's awesome.
They never get him. He always jumps out of a window.
That's fucking amazing.
That's funny.
I gotta watch this show. That sounds great.
It's really good. It's one of my favorite shows.
Oh, that's great.
Well, Colin, my good friend, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It was great to hear your voice.
Oh yeah, very good. Very glad. When you guys do a Tenet Redux 5 years from now, and Sam, you realize what that was actually a great film. I'll be there.
If we ever do another Tenet episode, Colin, you will be the first person we call.
The day we do another Tenet episode is the day I quit the podcast.
Wow.
Tenet -1 because it'll be in reverse.
Yeah.
God,
right.
fuck. AJ, what movie are we going to be? You have to ask me.
Yeah. Sam, what movie are we going to be watching next week?
Oh man, get ready. It's time for Big Bad Monkeys and Lizards. We're reviewing Godzilla vs. Kong.
Ooh.
Are you serious? I'm missing the Godzilla vs. Kong episode.
Oh, yep. I'm sorry, Colin.
I've been banging the drum for Godzilla vs. Kong.
Jacob is going to be our guest for that one.
That monkey is so big.
Yeah, he's a big monkey.
Okay.
That's how I'm ending this episode. As always, thank you everybody for listening to the Video Lab podcast. If you'd like to be a guest on our podcast, be sure to email us at thevideolabpodcast@gmail.com.
You can find my review for this movie and other movies at my blog, asajthinks.com. And be sure to rate and subscribe to the podcast wherever you are listening.
Until next time, see ya. Peace.